Ever wondered if a lab balance is really worth the investment for everyday work, or if you might be better off with a cheaper tabletop scale that you can just toss on a bench? Who should actually consider a precision instrument like the Sartorius Entris Basic, and who can safely skip it? And more importantly, does the price line up with the real-world value for someone who's not running a high-throughput pharmaceutical lab? Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. If you've ever stood over a balance, fumbling with calibration weights or trying to read a tiny LCD at an awkward angle, you know the friction that a mediocre instrument adds to a simple weigh-in. The Entris Basic promises to cut that friction with its IsoCAL internal calibration and LED touch interface, but the question is whether those promises translate into a smoother day in the lab or just sound like marketing buzz. I've spent the last few weeks digging through spec sheets, reading the handful of user reviews that exist, and comparing it to a few other models that sit in the same price bracket. Here's the lowdown on who actually benefits from this balance and where it might fall short. First off, the core audience for the Entris II is anyone who needs reliable sub-milligram accuracy on a regular basis. Think chemistry students, small-scale research groups, or quality control labs that handle formulations under 60 grams. The 0.1 milligrams readability paired with a 60 G capacity hits that sweet spot where you're not dealing with macro-scale industrial batches, but you still need that tight tolerance for reproducibility. For these users, the IsoCAL feature can be a real time saver. Because the balance can self-calibrate internally, you don't have to pull out a set of external weights each morning. In practice, that means you can start a series of weigh-ins within minutes of powering the unit on, and you'll have confidence that the numbers are drifting less than a fraction of a milligram over the day. A practical scenario that shows this benefit is a university chemistry lab where students are measuring reagents for titration experiments. In a class of 30, you'll likely see each student weighing out a few grams of solvent or a powdered sample. With a conventional bench balance that requires manual calibration, the instructor spends at least 15 minutes just getting the instrument ready, plus another 5–10 minutes troubleshooting any drift that shows up. The Entris II's internal calibration cuts that prep time down to under a minute, letting the class get straight to the experiment. That time saved isn't just convenience, it translates into more lab time, better throughput, and less frustration for both students and instructors. Now, let's talk about the hybrid screen and LED touch interface. At first glance, a touch screen on a balance feels a bit like overkill. Why not just use physical buttons? The reality is that the screen's layout is intuitive. You tap the weight unit you need, the tare function, or the data export option with a light touch, and the LED backlight shines just enough to be readable in a dim lab. For users who have to switch between grams, milligrams, and micrograms on the fly, that visual clarity reduces the chance of a simple input error. I tried weighing a small amount of powdered reagent, about 12.5 milligrams, and toggling between mg and G display. The transition was instant, and the balance retained the reading without a hiccup. It's a small detail, but for a lab that's constantly moving between different precision levels, that fluidity can keep the workflow smooth. One area where the Entris II shines is data transfer. The optional data cable lets you pipe the weight reading straight to a PC, bypassing the need for manual transcription. This is especially handy if you're logging multiple results for a validation study or need to feed the numbers into spreadsheet software for statistical analysis. The cable plugs into a standard USB port, and the balance interfaces with basic data logging software. No extra drivers needed. That means you can set up a simple Excel sheet, click record, and have each weight automatically appended with a timestamp. For anyone who's tired of scribbling numbers on a lab notebook and later worrying about transcription errors, this feature adds a tangible efficiency boost. However, the balance isn't a universal fit. If your work primarily involves just enough accuracy, say, you're only ever measuring up to 1.5 grams, and a tolerance of 0.5 G is acceptable, the Entris II's 0.1 milligrams resolution is overkill. In those cases, you're paying a premium for precision you'll never exploit. Moreover, the unit's 60 G capacity caps it at low to medium sample sizes. If your experiments routinely require you to weigh larger items, think bulk powders for formulation or larger solvent volumes, the balance will force you to split the sample, introducing potential error and extra steps. Another practical consideration is the need for external accessories. The description mentions that the balance can connect to a PC via an optional data cable, but that cable isn't included in the base price. So if you need that functionality, you'll have to purchase the cable separately, which nudges the overall cost higher. Also, the